Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? We have episode number 30 of Marvel Yap today. We're going to be breaking down the brand new March season, as well as giving you a brand new recap of the February season, as well as our review of the OTA. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, we are joined by the hostest with the mostest, notmydance. How are we doing today, Dance?
Doing absolutely great. It's fun. Honestly, I've been having an absolute blast. What is it? Been playing, Sanctum Showdown came out since we last talked, and that's been an absolute blast. We've had, a lot of different things to mess with, just in terms of the new cards. Different OTA things that have happened in this this week feels like it's been a lot of stuff happening in Snap Tuck, and we're gonna have a difficult recap ahead of us.
Yeah, so there is a lot to discuss, but I think all the stuff that we're going to be talking about today when it goes to the OTA and review, the February recap, and then the March preview, I think there is a lot of meat in all of this, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot going on, and I think, we've had some hints of potential changes coming to the game and just new ideas that feel like it's going to bring life continually into Snap after, we do have series drops starting today as well, which is fantastic. And then hopefully more card acquisition updates coming in the future. I feel like we say that every single episode, but we haven't really heard anything since that. This is just a really good step towards better card acquisition, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like myself, as well as a lot of other people, got confused, thinking that the card acquisition update was going to be the update for today. And that the only thing that was said about, today, or just like what we thought it was going to be today, is because the series drops were happening in the first quarter of the year, and that was also discussed about the card acquisition update and whatever that is. So as far as I think we know, it's just future TM. We'll have to see what occurs there, but there's a lot of really good stuff happening today, and thankfully they nerfed the Scream deck in this OTA. If we're gonna go straight into our first segment here.
Yeah, so they nerfed the Scream deck by taking a point of power off of Arrow, which totally nerfs the large majority of what you're doing in the Scream deck, if you look at it logistically.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very interested in why this is going to be, why this was done. I mean, they said it right. They said that this was good because of the context of Scream was the logic of this, and the Scream Surtur hybrid was one of apparently just the best decks in their back end data. And Arrow being an enabler that allowed you kind of to cross those two bridges. Her and Heimdall really was like the reason why, okay, we got to hit this one, make sure we can knock that bridge down. I mean, I'm kind of sad Arrow got hit, but at the same time, I get it. I feel like Scream's still a very good card.
Yeah, I think this changes more for Surtur opposed to necessarily Scream, because I feel like if you look at Surtur in concept, you don't have to do as much kind of mental thinking in a way as you do with Scream. Like, whether it is moving this card there, the options, they have 3 different 1-drops here. Which card is Polaris going to pull? Like, I feel like they maybe were looking at that on the back end, so they didn't really want to hit Scream herself. But, I mean, this dude got
talking about him.
Freaking hit, bro.
Yeah.
So, if you guys are just listening, Surtur, if you guys did not know, in the OTA, he still is a 3/5, but after you play a card that is 10 or more power, now it only gains +2. It is no longer capped at only getting 211 power, but it is going to be much harder to get that extra scar value earlier on just by having Surtur on the board. So they did this for longevity. And with Starbrand coming out, in a couple weeks, I think they were looking at it that way, which we'll talk about Starbrand also a bit later as well. But I think this was a very positive change just for the meta.
Yeah, this was a good one. What is it? It was just they realized, because I feel like what they said for Surtur was just the fact hey, we wanted this card to be a Scar enabler, and I think that's what they said they wanted the card to be. And as time has gone on, we've realized, boy, they can't have that. We can't have that. That's too good. And I'm glad they took such a heavy-handed approach with it, because it's a shame that they that it had to just decrease so drastically from what it was at first, right? Because now basically it's from the original version was a 3/5 that gains +3. It got hit with a nerf to go to 3/4. Then it got hit with a nerf to go twice per game back to a 3/5. And now we're getting hit on this. I think this is the final nerf because it feels like it really lowers the ceiling of everything else, and making that Scar free was just straight up too good. But even if this hadn't changed, Scar wouldn't have been able to be free anymore.
Yep, Scar went to a 7/12 opposed to a 6/10. I do want to say with the Surtur change, it is one of the first times they have really hit a season pass card super quickly and multiple times within its life cycle, which I think is really great on the developer team itself, really focusing on the meta and looking at that perspective of like, this is really impactful and like we do need to change this ASAP. So like, I'm really kudos to them for that. And also with the Scar change too, like it's a double whammy. And I think that was really, really smart. This is, I believe, what I think Guest or you were talking about. I think I said making like a 7 cost and someone else was talking about his power or something.
Yeah, it was something akin.
Yeah.
I think when we talked about that, which remember, I even said it, right? I even said when, what is it? Because last week we didn't talk about the OTA at all. And I said, there's no point. It's going to be stuff that we said 2 weeks ago or whatever. And that was when and we talked about this Scar hit, and this is such a better change, I feel like, and I actually like the ideas for this card so much more, because I feel like the 7/12 really makes it kind of interesting. The fact that you've given him that more power in order to increase that cost. It also It also makes it so you can't, at least it's going to be hard, as so difficult, but you can't really get this for free anymore.
Yeah, you'd have to have extra turns or something.
Extra turns, like a monster on the board, or like some way that's giving you extra cards. But I love the fact that this is a change that has occurred. I think it's super cool. This is, I don't know, it's just fun. I think this feels like a really solid bit. And they also, when they were talking about the notes, by the way, they did the notes a little bit differently. And they went hitting those 3 cards first, talking about the Arrow, the Scar, and the Surtur, because, those were the meta things that they wanted to hit. And then they kind of changed, and then again, just in terms of changing up the notes, then they went into talking about the cards that were getting buffed that were also dropping series, because Scar's also dropping series, but they buffed a couple other ones that are dropping series.
Yeah, and also Scar people are using in Hella now. Dance made a Hella deck video, if you guys have not seen that. Also going over some Scar shenanigans, since he is now at 7 power, so it's easier to kind of hit that. But Werewolf by Night is now back to his original 3/3, where he used to be absolutely busted, but it was because the deck he was playing in was also absolutely busted, because it was a Loki tech deck with Werewolf by Night, and it was crazy.
I just feel like, Werewolf by Night, and also, like, I just don't. We didn't have the rampers we do nowadays, right? Like, I think back then we didn't have a world where we had what's it called? High Evolutionary was too spicy for having the ongoing ability on Hulk.
Yep.
Yet we're here now, and we've got so many different rampers. Like, in a world where Scar exists, Surtur exists, Werewolf by Night makes sense to get that to go back to that original stuff. So this is a great change. I'm stoked by this. I love it. I'm down. I think there's a lot of cards that can go back to their original stuff, just due to the fact that whether you call it power creep or whatever, the meta has more options in what they can play.
Yeah, no, and I think this Werewolf change was good. Another card that was dropping series that finally got buffed back up to where they were, not originally, because they were 5/8 originally, was Annihilus. Annihilus is back to a 5/7. I've been talking about this for a freaking week, so I was like, Annihilus, it's time for him to be able to come back, and I think it's totally a good spot. I mean, Clog already is, scary. Like, there's definitely instances where Clog's very scary. You don't really want Clog to be, too just everywhere, because it kind of makes the game just anti-fun. I'm talking about you, Helk, and I know you hate Clog. But I think this is a very applicable change.
Yeah. I heard some people saying it should just go back to the original stuff. No.
Oh, gosh.
0 power cards going across the board was atrocious. No. No. Can I say it again? No. This is a good change, though. It's not going to make the card busted. It kind of goes into what I talked about before, I think, recently, where it was just like, 5 costs. It's kind of interesting where they exist in the meta, potentially problematic. And I think Annihilus is a very good showcase of that. So this is a good change. I'm very excited to see if it's going to be enough to actually matter in the long run. But it is a deck. What is it that I've been playing a little bit as well, and I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, no, I think this is a solid change. And then we also had Not a card dropping series, but we did have High Evo also get a buff from a 4-6 to a 4-7. So when it comes to just the base High Evo now, it's a little bit more playable. This is originally what he was data mined at before he was initially released to, was at the 4-7 stat line. So just a card you can kind of play on the board if you're not drawing, your stuff.
I think it was even shown as a 4-7, and then the month it was going to get added, they're like, no, we're actually going to bring this right down to a 4-4. It was something. I think it was the first time we had seen an OTA hit an unreleased card. I feel like, but yeah, I mean, this is good. However, again, if we're talking about the rampers that we have in the game, there's a lot more cards that could be getting the power back.
Yeah,
I feel like the whole package, right? Like, it's cool he's got the extra power. It works in the deck that is just playing, High Evo and Abomination. Otherwise,
yeah, he just still sits in your hand. Which also, talking about some cards that did get changes, we did have some earlier pool cards that did also get affected. One of them is going to be Lizard, which is probably one of the maybe quote unquote less interesting hype, I guess, whatever changes. He went from a 2-5 to a 2-6, so yeah, better for your Sauron decks, to 2-6 stat line, which of course, like, it's the same power as Maximus now, which both of them have their downsides, which is just interesting to see. Silk still, crying in the club. But we also did get White Queen. Went to a 3-4. Woohoo! 3-cost White Queen.
I mean, everyone's stoked about this, right? This is a great change because it's better than it was before. But again, I'm gonna be honest. As someone who's been trying to play this card so much, I don't think she's good still.
Rework this card.
I feel like they even said that they were going to rework. Like, they said they didn't want to just like buff her and or reduce her power or give her more power or whatever. Like, they said they needed to rework her, and then we got this version instead. And I'm happy they're revisiting the card. Don't get me wrong. I also don't think that this isn't the final place where she should exist. She needs something else, I think. Unless I'm proven wrong, right? And there's like a meta deck with her coming out in a week or whatever from when we're talking about this. But it just I don't see a thing with it, really.
No, she needs like a revamp, like copy the card, the cost of the most, like copy the card that costs the most from your opponent's hand and decrease its cost by 1 or something. Like just that would be interesting. Well, I'm glad like she's not at 4 cost anymore because her ability at 4 cost is bad. Yeah.
They did specifically shout out and mention cards that we technically, quote unquote, officially hadn't seen any information on. Naming Isan and Starbrand for both White Queen and Lizard, respectively, their buffs, because that's what they wanted. They wanted to buff some cards that would probably work with those. Tuck, I don't think either one of us, when we talk about Isan later, I don't think either one of us have White Queen in their decks.
No, I don't think I mean. Yeah, she generates a new card in your hand that Isan can pull onto the board because it's a targeted generated, but I'd rather have something else. Like a Coulson. I'd go Coulson over, just have that unknown. I think like that's the other thing with White Queen is like your opponent knows what your White Queen drew, whereas like if you do play a Coulson, they don't know what 4 and 5 cost cards you got.
Yeah, which again, maybe the point against that point, I don't agree with it, but the point that I could see being made would be, well, yes, but Agent Coulson gives you the knowledge against what they're doing.
Yeah.
Rather than, White Queen gives you knowledge against what they're doing, whereas Agent Coulson doesn't let them know what you're doing. So it's like there's a bird in one hand, or what was it? 12 in one hand, half a dozen in the other.
Yeah.
So I think the bird is. I still think the original's worth more. I don't think White Queen is still great, but I really want to be proven wrong. I just want to make a great deck with this card. But yeah, the OTA in general, I mean, honestly, I heard someone saying that they didn't like it. They didn't think it was that spicy. I thought it was great that they hit so many of the top stuff very quickly. And White Queen getting a buff in general is spicy. Wear Off by Night, going back to, like, there's enough spicy stuff that I think are pretty solid in this OTA that I really personally enjoyed.
But we didn't even talk about the spiciest change yet.
Oh my. Oh, you're right. Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about them yet.
So the spiciest change of the OTA, Dan's talking about another point, which we'll talk about actually after this too, is Joaquim Torres went from a 3-4 right, to a 2-2, still keeping his
3-2.
yeah, woo!
He's too busted.
Yeah, woo! So he went to a 2-2, still keeping the ongoing ability. The on-reveal abilities of your 1-cost cards here happen twice, and I think this is exactly what the card needed. I remember saying like a 2-3 making him a activate, but keeping the ongoing for this card is just so much better.
It's just such a good change. 100%. This is a great change. Yeah, I forgot about this one entirely. I'm gonna be honest, it's a good change.
Yeah.
And I still don't think the card's great, actually.
Yeah, it's not like it makes it game breaking necessarily, but
I'll say this, and this is the thing I feel like people forget about most whenever any new card comes out. If it misses and it goes, and it's especially if it goes too low, Second Dinner, Marvel Snap will buff that card in some way to bring it up. And they typically try to leave the ability the same while working on the stats. And so if a card hits too high as well, they will probably bring it down in order to make it so that it's going to be better. Surtur was that logic of it being brought down because they wanted to keep the similar logic, and they tried many times, realized what they had to do. And Joaquim was someone I saw people being like, "Well, this sucks that I skipped him on the week." My logic is, if you liked the ability on the card, that's what you should be aiming for, always and forever. And I get it; you have to be careful with your resources. You can't do everything, but I think that's one thing with this. Well, they've really showcased, like, hey. If a card isn't meta, it's not great initially based off of purely the stats, we're going to try to buff those stats, change those stats in some way so that it matters a little bit more while keeping the ability typically the same.
And I think that's a really great take on it, too. Like, I think you hit it right on the noggin. If the card's going to be fun for you, get it. If it's not going to be fun for you, wait to see if people make a fun deck you might enjoy and then get it. Or skip and save your resources for something else.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. That was the last, like, quote unquote, I say, major card change we had in the OTA.
I think so. I know we had a couple changes to Eliath and Gwenpool. Can we wait for them for the March preview? Because the reason why they got changed is over there, and I want to make sure we talk about that with the full context and not feel like we have to jump around from point to point to point.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
There was a change to Professor X as well. Just saying that was a bug. They're saying it's bugged. Or they didn't mean for that to be a change or whatever. We'll talk about that later. But yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, that OTA good. I forgot about. Yeah, I said that even before I remembered Joaquim.
Yep. No. That's a good OTA. They hit a large variety of cards. It wasn't just like one specific archetype that got knocked or another archetype that got buffed. It was a lot of just variety of changes, some necessary nerfs, and some good just quality of life updates. I would say for some of these other cards.
Definitely. And if we're going to talk about, some good quality of life stuff, I felt like the quality of life this season of Marvel Snap, honestly, it felt like the meta was pretty diverse. The exception potentially being the season pass card, which, by the way, these are the stats for all the cards post OTA. We're not going to read them out loud for anyone listening, so my apologies. But this is post OTA, and unfortunately, it's not. Some of them still aren't seeing great times, but
some of these cards. Well, this is last 30 days. If we look at the patch, actually, this is better. I had last 30 days because I'm looking at season review. But it's interesting. These are all post Infinite stats. Surtur's still winning. No shocker there. And
Annihilus actually getting play now and seeing some White Queen gaming. Again, neither one's really doing amazingly, but we are seeing them return. Joaquim and unfortunately Werewolf by Night still not doing amazing. I want Werewolf by Night to be good. We'll talk about that, especially in the March review. But I've got some copium there, and I'm trying to throw it into a list in that group.
Yeah. Well, looking at in review as well, this is going to be the premium stats we have for all of February. This is just looking at the stats for the entire season. This is going to be within the last 30 days. Some of these cards have come out more recently, so they're not going to have as much stats. Some of them aren't good, or are maybe just in the wrong deck. Maybe people are playing them improperly. So
we'll talk about them, because we had our rankings of these. I got them next to me. I feel like I was incredibly wrong about a lot of cards.
Okay.
When do you remember your ranking? Just to hit up with that first. Do you remember what you ranked cards this season? Because I feel like I was wrong about quite a few, and I know which ones I personally was wrong about.
I
Those, if you're okay.
definitely was wrong about quite a few cards. I do remember like a couple of my ratings also had asterisks behind them, in the sense whereas I knew the week they came out they weren't going to have crazy stats because Luke Cage exists. But I think we both
You
maybe
say
went
that,
50-50.
and Diamondback is still kind of B tier, which is kind of insane to me, by the way.
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I feel like that's was it Luke Cage existing is again, it's just a problem I think right now, but that's I was talking with Toxic Soul King, which speaking of, I had a really fun Diamondback Live feedback with him that also used New Lives, but he and I were talking about it, and we want. I said that I just want there to be an OTA where they nerf Luke Cage and they nerf all the affliction cards. Every one of those cards gets nerfed because, or not maybe all of them, like the bigger ones. You nerf all those as well as nerfing Luke Cage because you just make it so it's not the best. You don't get a full answer with Luke every single game. It's a 3 cards you can throw into most decks, and then also those cards you don't need Luke as the answer. But yeah, I mean, in terms of actually stating what's on our screen in front of us right here, rather than me just yapping, even though we are Marvel yapping, Sam Wilson is the standout card from this season. And what is it? What is it? He was the one who I expected the most out of because I was most excited for him, and I had I feel like I had such a narrow expectation for him, just because of the ongoing stuff. But he's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think I remember when I was talking about this at the beginning of the season and then on another podcast with Glazer, I was like, Sam Wilson's okay. He does what he does. He's all right. And I think you said it right on the nail yet again. Like, we were so narrow-minded about just the quote-unquote simplicity. And I say quote-unquote simplicity because this isn't, like, the most simplistic card. Because the way you can kind of waver in and out, like, well, I actually need to have ongoing stuff to make this work. Oh, no, I just use the shield as an enabler for some of these big power cards. Oh, no, I use the shield as an enabler for other stuff. Like, there's so many different ways you can play around with the shield with Sam Wilson, either to fight for priority or to lose priority. Like, it is just a really just well put together card that, like, added just a new, unique feature, which I really liked.
Yeah. No, it's really good. I think he's a very good card. Second Dinner even said, by the way, that maybe mentioned it last week or whatever, but they even said that Sam Wilson, he's just a good card, and so he's doing about what I expected. The thing they don't like about him is apparently that he works so well with both, who are the two? With Atuma and Cold Obsidian. So even more Surtur enabling stuff there because, right, the shield, one of the things with Cold Obsidian was just the fact that you'd be like, well, hopefully I get my 1-drop in time. Who cares?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is a what is it? I'm not surprised that he's at the top. Diamondback, I'm actually really surprised is doing so well. I feel like that could be a bit of new card bias. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I think so. Like, all of these stats right here are based off of ladder, not including Sanctum Showdown. So it's very interesting, I think, maybe for us also to look at this prospectively. How many people are playing ladder right now instead of trying to play Sanctum Showdown to try and grind and still to be able to get Series 4, Series 5 cards? Like, with the new season coming up, people already have hit Infinite, or they're maybe sick and tired of Conquest, so they're doing Sanctum. They're able to get their refreshes, and they're playing more into that. So maybe you are seeing maybe slightly less Luke Cage on the ladder, which is why, like, even Laufey is in the top of C tier of this list, and, like, win rate, they're close to 50%, which is warranting a pretty good card. Not like this is a good, great card, but close to 50 is, like, about every other game, which is pretty solid. Cube rate both is negative for both of them, but I think maybe it's just this is a good card, and, like, I think both these cards are just going to continue to get better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they're just gonna we're just going to see the. I think we even said that when we talked to them initially. It's just like both these cards are going to be good, and as time goes on, people forget about them. There's a chance they just gain more strength because then they aren't the new thing everyone's thinking about playing against. Yeah, I feel like, and then there were a lot of other cards that happened this season. I don't really feel like breaking down each one of them, but I think we did. What is it? I think we were too forgiving to a lot of these cards and too excited about a lot of these cards here.
Yes.
The only one I'm going to say that I think is actually good, which isn't being played a lot because everyone, including us, said it was going to be garbage. Uncle Ben is actually a blast, in my opinion. I think Uncle Ben's just really good. I think it's just a good enabler for both destroy stuff as well as everything you would like to Scream, considering Scream didn't get hit in the OTA herself. Like, if we're talking about my rankings, by the way, because I had Sam as my number 1 and Uncle Ben all the way down at the bottom of the list. Uncle Ben, I think, is following Sam at this point, actually. I will give you credit, though, that I do think Thaddeus is better than Red Wing. I will say that for you as well. But yes, for myself, I think that Uncle Ben is probably my second favorite card from this season, following Sam Wilson. I think I'm not gonna, again, we don't need to go for a whole thing, but when we talked about the cards that we were most excited for and least excited for, I had Sam Wilson, Red Wing, Laufey as my top 3. I think Laufey probably still stays as his slot, but Uncle Ben jumps way up the list.
Okay.
In that number 2.
I respect you saying him as one of your favorite cards, opposed to you saying him as one of the best cards.
Oh, I think he's still really good. I'm also trying to. Sorry, I do think he's good. I do think he is straight up good. I'm going to say that because the enabling for moving your opponent's cards out of the way is very annoying. Giving your Spider-Man is a nice way to actually mess with opponent's cards as well as discount your Mockingbird, which I really love as well. Especially Sam Wilson making Mockingbird a 5/9, by the way, is so good. Mentioning that. And thirdly, just the movement as well, and being able to. I was running a move destroy, like a Scream destroy combo deck, and being able to have Lady Deathstrike serve multiple purposes there, as well as Killmonger, getting to use some good tech cards, as well as comboing it with a bunch of other very strong pieces, was so solid. Also, Bucky feels good.
Yeah,
it sounds like you disagree entirely, but I just want to say that.
I haven't tested any Uncle Ben, but I don't think he's a top 3 card this season.
What are your top 3? Give me your top 3 from this season. Again, we're not going to go over everything we had originally, or like try to rank all of them, but I'm going to tell you what your top 3 were before, and then you tell me what the top 3 are in actuality. Your top 3 were in order: Laufey, Diamondback, and Gorgon. And again, Uncle Ben bottom.
And I said Gorgon because I just hate Airship and I want Gorgon to be there. I haven't played. I have Gorgon, but I haven't played any Gorgon. Gorgon's gonna be better this next season.
I think Gorgon is. I really want Gorgon to be a lot more fun.
Oh, he's not fun. It's not a fun card by any means. Neither is Mobius. Mobius is not a fun card.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I just think Gorgon was it. I wish Gorgon was better. I feel like he's gonna be. He's not a card you can just position into any tech card slot. Because I feel like
specific narrow kind of thing.
I feel like the Darkhawk Ronin deck that it's kind of been playing with it, right? Like that does really well with Gorgon. In comparison, I can't just be running Gorgon in the same way that I can put Luke Cage in my at least Silver Surfer deck because I have another way to use it or ongoing deck. But anyway, sorry. Top 3. What are your top 3?
Well, Gorgon's gonna be also like a great plug and chug this next week when people are trying to play Agamotto. It's going to be a good counter to that. But
and Isan.
I still think I probably move Sam up in the top 3. Like I probably go Sam, Diamondback, Laufey, or Sam, Laufey, Diamondback. That's probably what I would do. I would keep the Affliction stuff, and like I still preface that it's a Luke Cage thing, and like that's why these card stats are the way they are. Because I think overall the value you can add with Diamondback just on singular, just like location stuff, is also incredible, opposed to like having to hit it with a Hazmat or any Affliction kind of shenanigans. I think on the low end, I don't know. I think I have Joaquin middle tier now. I have Thaddeus towards low end, Red Wing towards low end, and Uncle Ben towards low end. But I probably have Uncle Ben above Red Wing. I probably have Red Wing.
Is it Red Wing at your bottom?
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
but I don't have
That's
Uncle
fair.
Ben at the bottom anymore. I think I like, and like I was thinking also too, like the token destroy kind of aspect with Uncle Ben with the Mockingbird stuff is really cool, and like you can have your debris and stuff to enable it. I think I still really, 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 really wish Spider-Man was a 3 cost, because then you could have done some Uncle
be
Ben shenanigans in
perfect.
Surfer, and I think that would have
Yeah.
been awesome.
Yeah. I think that would have been just absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
The fact it doesn't makes the card more narrow. But yeah,
I'm not saying it's a
I agree with you
bad
there.
card, but I don't think it's as
I'm saying
competitive as some
narrow.
of those other ones. Yeah, it's definitely narrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, but making it 2 destroy things that eventually
Yeah.
can give you that 4 for that like token destroy thing as you were mentioning before,
Mm-hmm.
I think is really where Uncle Ben shines personally.
No.
But I honestly, in general, I will say I think these cards this season or whatever, like I think they're just an absolute blast. I really had a fun time with each and every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I will say another point in Uncle Ben's favor. He's the only one of all of these Sanctum cards to actually have a reaction set. I know that's some information that really influenced your rating of him. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone else understood that as well.
Well, he has been in the game data mine, or not been in the game. He's been data mined for ages, so I'm glad he does get that value. And
Yeah.
then we also have on screen here, we're going to go through in order some of the decks that we actually brewed for each of these cards, starting from when they were released. We didn't have decks brewed for the Sanctum cards,
Yeah.
but we did have decks brewed for...
Can you imagine trying to talk about that as well last week?
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Yes, last week's video would have been like 3 hours long if we'd actually went through that.
Bro, it's crazy. Let's go. Yeah, that would have been dumb. God. Anyway, I mean, this is a list I feel like actually stayed pretty similar. The fact that I made this list before we knew Mr. Fantastic was going to that different change.
Mm-hmm. You did. You made this prior to OTA Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah. And actually, I think this is it's very close to one of the top decks for Sam, I think, right now.
Really?
I think if I'm going, what is it? If I'm remembering the top current decks with Sam Wilson, yeah, it's one of the top decks right now. It's very, very good. What is it? So again, some of the top decks just for Sam Wilson, I think one of the biggest ones I think was just actually using Scream stuff, because you could use the shield as a consistent like Miles enabler as well as like using Rocket and Groot. So there was a lot of great benefits there. But I think currently in the top meta, what is it? If you focus, not just on the last 30 days, if you focus on just, the last week, there was a video I think Cam Best put out recently that shows what you can really do with Sam as well by using, actually the new Lizard, Luke Cage, and then also Anti-Venom is another one, just as a bunch of different ongoing style cards to ramp that out and get a lot more value there. But in general, it's been a very fun card. Zoo builds as well. What is it? I don't feel like I've seen as many of these. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not trying to roast, but
No, this
I feel like
wasn't
they're
definitely a home for Sam Wilson. It's something I was using to climb, but it definitely wasn't like one of the main spots. No.
this is still like, it was a very fun deck. I think this is a very fun one. And this is one that, if you're still wanting something off meta, it's different. But it's different than just what the meta quote unquote established. I still think this deck is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely not gonna win you as many games as like some of the other Sam Wilson stuff, but it's something we tried out just to see what would happen, and then
Imagine trying things. Never.
And then we went over to some Thanos Joaquim Destroy.
Yeah. I mean, Joaquim was, I think I was just incorrect here. I tried. It wasn't one of the best homes. I did really try it, and it didn't work as well. People did try this as well. It didn't work, but that's, I think, what is it? I think there's a good chance that there's also a part of that being a problem with, Joaquim just getting buffed. And I feel like what we might actually have in terms of legitimate stats may be different from just the OTA. But I think when we talk about the OTA, I think you were doing a lot better there.
Yeah, I did Joaquim in a mill list, and now I think post OTA he's even better in this list. The 3-cost slot is just always really funky, and I think that's another reason why the Thanos Destroy list, it was just a little tough there. Not saying it was like necessarily bad, because I know some people haven't actually been having success with Joaquim in Thanos Destroy. But Mill just felt like the better home, even though it only had like 2 1-cost enablers.
Yeah. Yeah, you're correct there. Although I will say, I think both of us missed the mark on bounce.
Yes.
Because I think we talked about it and we said it wasn't going to be worth it. And it wasn't at a 3-cost. And I'll give us that point in our favor. But especially it going to that 2-cost slot makes it so that that second turn gives you a lot more value. And we were seeing a lot more stuff with him at that 2-cost slot. So I'm gonna say I think if he was staying that 3-4, I think you would have won there if we're talking about winning or whatever. But like in terms of making the best decks for these cards, but since he did change his stats, that changed as well.
Yeah, and I think overall too, where he's at right now in Mill, he gets swapped out for another card coming out this next season.
And I'm not gonna keep. Remember, I said I was trying to keep the March preview stuff in March. Let's go. What? Yeah, this was what is it? The Ross deck I was thinking about. It was just a Scar package in general, and I mean it kind of worked. It wasn't bad, but it definitely it wasn't one of the best places for him. I missed it, and I'm not gonna say the best deck that was for him. What did you have for him again? I don't remember.
I had something that also gets better this next season that I'll talk about more when we get over to that. But
yeah, the Sauron was close.
We're very close. And I've been using something like this actually in Sanctum Showdown with Thaddeus Ross, and I've been actually getting a lot of value.
Nice. We can talk about Sanctum Showdown at the end of the recap as well, because there's a lot of stuff that happened this month. But yeah, I think we both in the end we missed this mark because even before the OTA changed Scar, he was being used most in Hella lists. And I don't think, and that was something we don't guest talked about. I believe he said he was on the podcast when we talked about Ross. He had I believe a death deck where you basically like, hey, you just want death, and that's the only reason you run the card. It went for a similar logic there because the whole point is just you just want these bigger cost cards or these bigger powered cards to make sure that you have options to discard. And I think that's a very cool way to think about it. Very cool opportunity to use the card. But it is, what is it? Hella I don't think it was on either of our radars. And so we both passed at least here in terms of trying to nail the quote unquote best deck for these cards.
Yeah, and I think Hella, and I think he's still going to be used in Hella going forward, as well as another card we'll talk about next season. We got a lot of cards that just kind of combo with the stuff we got going on. It's really interesting. But we also got Red Wing. So some Red Wing shenanigans. How did you feel about this list?
I felt better about this. I didn't like this list personally with myself because I didn't enjoy the Surtur Scar stuff. However, I do think it was a solid idea. I don't remember what you had for Red Wing yourself, so apologies there, but I will say the best list for him over the last 30 days. This is very close to what the best list is. Yeah, I've seen it's using I don't think I've seen the dump version, but it's trying to go with it's War Machine stuff with that Infinite.
Yep, that's Husky's Red Wing list.
Is it? Okay, there you go. I suck at deck credit, so forgive me there. But I think you were much closer in that. I'll say my deck, the version of a movement style with Craven or whatever, and Sam Wilson was number 2 with Surtur. But I think you would get that point there just in your favor, because I think this is a much more realistic, I would simply say, home for the card.
And then we also got, for your Diamondback list, we do have some Toxic Surfer.
Yeah. I thought you didn't need the card. I thought you were going to have some issues with Diamondback and the fact that you just didn't need to give all that extra affliction to the cards on your opponent's side. This week has proven me wrong. Just straight up, I was wrong.
Yeah, but I think it's just a weird home, like in this kind of sense. Like I feel like this at first glance, like this will hit, but it's just I don't know. Just the meta is in a really interesting spot where it's like you kind of have to play like big Galactus Surfer, instead of something like the Wong Surfer because it's a little bit too telegraphed, kind of, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, this is much closer to, if not, I think you're 90% on if I'm looking at actually what the best deck is for this, the only difference is actually, oh my gosh, yeah, you're like nearly 1-for-1. Sarah and Shadow King you toss for Iron Patriot and Laufey.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I had a different list, but that wasn't on the Yap, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, hey, but again, I'm gonna say it. You still were a lot like that. I looked at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I thought he got a perfect thing, and I was like, oh, it's 2 cards off.
Yeah,
those are 2. I get why those 2 cards are off. It's fair. That's definitely a point though in your favor, just in terms of trying to guess where the card should be existing, and I think that's a good shout.
Yeah, no, I think that's why, like, this deck overall, I think does get better with less, Luke Cage, but like at the same time, there has to be something to account for all this affliction. So, like, I think I like the idea if Luke Cage does get adjusted, some of the affliction cards should be adjusted as well, so it's not just killing one card so another archetype can just completely prosper kind of thing.
Or, again, one of the things I've said is give us an on-reveal version of Luke Cage where it just says remove your affliction from, remove your affliction from your cards in this lane. Yeah. Or or you can say something, or Luke Cage, one of the things I've heard, and I think the most is, you make him like Destroyer so he doesn't protect his lane, he protects the other lanes.
What if he's like cleanse your cards in other lanes as like the...
I remember when I was jumping into Marvel Snap and they're like, we don't want to have a lot of keywords.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Look where we're now.
There's only so much you can do when you only have cost and power. And one of the things you can do is removing power.
Just like these removed cards that were in Sanctum Showdown because they were just
I was about to skip to March previous. Shoot, my bad. No, I was talking about the Arcana is what I was going into because I forgot immediately about Sanctum Showdown. But yeah, that also happened.
But yeah, Sanctum Showdown did actually do some shenanigans there. We were talking about how like some cards were just a little bit too crazy for the game mode, and like Scream was a card that I was using to climb. Of course, I was not using the Doom 2099 version because Doom 2099 is super lame. But I was playing the Scream. I mean, I had Rocket and Groot, I had Cannonball, I had all that, which I guess that also was kind of lame. So, to be fair, but the cards were the legit fun police, and same with Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Like, they had to ban these cards from the showdown just because it just was too oppressive. And I think I understand, and I'm glad they made such a quick change with the game mode coming out, which I think that is huge kudos. Like,
I will say, on one hand, I really love that just in terms of like from their side. On the other hand, I'm trying to make YouTube videos, Tucker. Second Ender doesn't want me to because I made a day 1 best Sanctum decks video. I think it lasted about 24 hours before they nerfed those. I think all those decks just a bit got hit. Anyway, I really loved that bit. But no, I think that in general, they did a great job. Yeah, they banned, in addition, Cannonball, Negasonic, Teenage Warhead, Rocket Groot, Scream, and then the other fun police. Not really. I understood why, but they also banned Makari.
Yes, which was interesting, but I get it. I get it.
Yeah. It's just a way, even, I saw people saying, like, Sam Wilson has this, like, shield because he's season pass card. I just have to imagine that that's just our public perception of the card being too good. Because in actuality, I just don't think it is. I don't think it's that good of a card. I didn't see it in enough places in actuality. I saw more of the Guardians, and who I also saw people being like, why in the world the Guardians not banned? Because the Guardians are playable for the first time in 2+ years of Marvel Snap being out, Tucker, and they have to, and that's who we're gonna say needs to get nerfed. No, let my Guardians of the Galaxy be playable for the first time in forever, please.
Yeah, no, I really love the aspect. Like, Adam Warlock just got a buff and is actually playable. Let's go ahead and actually, this is a game mode that prioritizes winning specific locations. There is no reason to ban the Guardians just because of this. Like, Jean Grey wasn't enough to make the Guardians good or applicable. but they banned Rocket and Groot. So, like, Rocket and Groot is actually oppressive, whereas the Guardians, like, you know the Guardians are going to go down. You know what power they get to. So, like, it's kind of telegraphed. You can kind of understand what energy you're going into on each of these turns. Just play around it. Like, you don't necessarily have to play a counter. Like, this isn't the situation, oh, you're playing against Destroy, you gotta run Shadow King, you gotta run Shang-Chi. This is legit, you know a Guardian is gonna come down on this location. You can just play around and you know what set power they get to. Like, it's just more simplistic there, right?
It's so, yeah, I agree 100%. Actually, I was playing against someone who was using the Guardians, and they, and I was using a deck that I didn't have any Guardians in it. But I just kept, for the first 2 turns, you know, you play the Rocket on the first turn, you play Star-Lord on the second turn. You just don't play for those locations for the first 2 turns. And then I kind of was just cooking because they didn't get that extra power on those locations for later turns. I had Mr. Fantastic with Moonstone in the deck. I kept dodging all their Guardians. I think by turn 5, after I dodged their Gamora with, I want to say I think I used Nocturne to dodge her. No. It was I used Nico moving a card to the right. I used Nico to dodge their Gamora, and then they just retreated. Yeah, I mean, the Guardians are good. They are not busted. They're just good, and that's fine.
Yeah, and that's what I like. Like, this game mode. So, like, at first glance, I was like, you're gonna have to really, really grind the Sanctum Showdown to be able to get all this stuff. Which, if you were not watching anyone on Twitch, you do. But the Twitch drops were extremely generous in enabling people to at least get the brand new cards, because you got the Twitch drop reward, and then you also got the additional bonus for reaching the next tier in the showdown. Like, it was great. Yes, maybe the cooldown for scrolls isn't great after you run out of scrolls, but they give you a lot of scrolls to start. Yeah. And you get scrolls as well for watching the Twitch drops. So, like, huge kudos once again to Second Dinner for the Twitch drops and allowing that aspect of the game to feel a little bit less grindy, because it's something you can also do passively while you are playing. So I was just really grateful for that.
I will say, by the way, if you haven't been watching people on Twitch for this bit, whether or not you're watching Tucker, myself, or anyone, you actually have until, I believe, until the end of today, at like midnight, I think, Pacific time. You have until the end of the day to basically get the rest of your drops. You have to watch 6 hours for it, but it's really great. I actually think it's amazing, Tuck. The biggest thing I heard this from someone. I don't have a reputable source on it. I heard it from someone else who heard it. Was they said that apparently it was bugged and it wasn't even supposed to work that way, where you weren't supposed to get like the progress for those. I haven't heard that in terms of like confirmation, only in terms of secondhand sources. If that's true, I get it.
Yeah.
However, I still liked it in terms of progression, but also one of the bigger things I feel like you also need to focus on is you're not meant to grind the game mode in a day. It's out for 2 weeks for a reason.
Yes.
And I know that people are like, oh, yeah, I want to be able to get every single reward from this. Yeah, me too. But but with this illusion of choice, not illusion choice, with this choice, you can choose which ones are your favorites to go for, which ones you really enjoy, which ones you don't enjoy. But no matter what, though, I really think it was a very solid event. I think it's a lot of fun. And we're saying it as if it's past tense. It actually doesn't end until next week. So there's still one more week. And if you'd like to get your cards, you can. With the series drops happening later today, you can also be going for your unowned Series 4/5 card, which if you haven't yet, please don't do that until the patch comes out, because then once that does occur, then those Series 4 or 5 cards are going to be, you're not going to get any cards that will be dropping to Series 3.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. But otherwise, I think it's just really, I think that it's been very good, and I don't know, I've had fun. I'm still emo complete because I've got all my albums. I got the emotes in this, which the Mr. Sinister's so good. But yeah, it's been great.
So you're emote complete still?
I am still emo complete. Yeah, it's been what is it? I'm very happy. It took forever, right? Because I had to get I had to get the Luca Claretti Hellcow, who took 500 years to show up, but he finally did. I think last week or whatever, or she did. Sorry, Bessie's her name. But yeah, it took forever for me to get all those, as well as the Venomized Quicksilver. Finally did, so I'm currently emo complete until I believe next month or this month with the Negative Space album.
Mm-hmm.
I think is the one that they've shown off, but yeah, I'm
with
happy.
the chill guy Black Panther.
Yeah, he's just a chill guy.
But talking about stuff that like takes forever, these cards are from a forever ago in the past, as corny as that is, as we do have the 1 million, I believe, BC cards coming out, which is going to be our March preview that we're going to be talking about right now. Did you like that transition, Jance? I know you did.
Oh my god.
I know.
Yeah, it was great, Tucker. It was great. It was great.
You loved it. You loved it.
You know what's
okay.
what is it? I really want us to get a month just to prove that, by the way, Luke Cage isn't as good as he is. I want us to get 1 month where they don't put any affliction style cards in the new cards.
Well, you
prove that Luke Cage doesn't need to be as good as he is.
Well, you're not getting it this month. I'm telling you that. You got at least 2 cards that have that affliction. So, with that in mind, though, we do have the brand new season pass card, Agamotto.
I've heard of his eye.
You heard of the eye? I didn't know it was an actual person until I saw the dev video.
Yeah. I feel like there's a bunch of those characters where it's like the winds of where he has a bunch of different spells or the arcana that come with him, right? He's a 5/10, just so y'all don't know, with the the ability at the start of the game, shuffle 4 ancient arcana into your deck. Each of those, Tucker, each of those arcana have blank of blank. Are we gonna get another season in the future where it's just those cards? It's just those people apparently, and we get themselves? Because even if he's referencing, we've got Doctor Strange's Eye of Agamotto. If we're referencing, things that are in other things, who's it? They in the MCU, I think Mordo has it's like the staff or like the boots of the Living Tribunal.
I think something like that. Something.
Yeah. Anyway, Agamotto.
Yeah, so Agamotto has some very interesting spells. So the spells have no power, and from what we saw in the dev video, they appear on screen, do their on the reveal, and then they disappear. Kind of like King. Mm-hmm. They're banished, is I believe the text there. And starting off first, we do have a 1-cost spell or Arcana. What to say? Arcana. 1-cost Arcana with the on reveal. Give Agamotto +3 power. Put him in your hand if he's not in play. So it's a potential targeted draw spell or targeted draw Arcana, as well as a power buffing Arcana for 1 cost.
This is interesting. A temporal manipulation is going to be, I think, it's meant to buff Agamotto. It's meant to put more focus on him, which is a good thing because I feel like a lot of the other ones that we have for the Arcana are very multi-purpose and multifaceted, and this one in particular is really focused on just him, which is cool.
Yeah, no, this is interesting. I think it's cool. It's like green, like time stone. Agamotto's the time stone. Getting that value there, like the Thanos interaction. And then next we do have the Winds of Watum, which is an on reveal. Afflict an enemy card here. 2 cost. Afflict an enemy card here with -5 power and move it right.
This is gonna be good, bro.
Yikes.
It's basically, again, it's semi 2/5, but it also moves. This is just another cool card, I think. I mean, I feel like all of his cards are at least decently cool.
Yep.
I think they're very interesting. They do a lot of very fun stuff. It is basically just a 2/5. Kind of, your opponent can have Luke Cage, and then the affliction doesn't matter anymore. But you can play it super early. You get a lot of value here. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can be doing with the wins as well, because we'll probably talk about decks and what we want to do with the card individually at the end of this whole thing. But again, just another solid one.
Yeah, this is really cool. And then we have Bolts of Balthok. I'm thinking, maybe I said it wrong, but it is a 3
I've been saying
cost.
Balthak, but I don't think there's a correct answer.
Okay. 3 cost, on reveal. Next turn, you get +4 energy. Huh. That sounds, that's pretty good, right?
Someone told me, was like, this is gonna be busted. Like, well, the most busted card from the no. Why would this be? This feels like the least busted card out of all of them, simply due to the fact that you lose 3 energy to gain 1 energy. You don't even get to keep the power like with Psylocke. So you just, instead of getting any value with your other stuff, you just put more value for the next following turn.
I don't know.
Right? Because with Psylocke, the power stays, at least with her.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even trigger this multiple times because the banishing on each of these cards is in the on reveal text, so it gets gone immediately after it's done. And then what is it? And then lastly, you also get the really awesome quote unquote part of not being able to do anything for the full. If you're playing on turn 3, imagining on curve, you can't do anything else. So this is a good card. But I also saw people saying this was just the best, most broken one. I think this is just isn't. You just kind of choose to, you give up 3 energy to gain 1 energy. And that's it. You don't get the power of a card. You get nothing. It's just, because again, these cards don't have power. The power that's shown on screen is not actually there.
But next turn, if you play this on turn 3, you have 8 energy on turn 4.
Yes, and you did nothing on your turn 5, or on your turn 3.
Yeah, but you have 8 energy to set up other stuff on turn 4 for 5 and 6. Like, I still think that's good. Like,
no. I'm not saying the card isn't good. I really don't want to say that. I'm just trying to say that people said this was the best, the most broken. This was broken because of this ability, whereas I don't agree with that because the card just goes away.
I don't think the card going away takes away getting the extra energy. I see what you're saying about not having the power on the board.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I feel like I'd rather get +4 energy and not have a card on the board than get +1 energy and have 2 power on the board, like the Psylocke scenario you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I like this way more than I would a Psylocke, and I think you're building your deck a little bit differently. But I do want to say, like, when you get a turn 1 Project Pegasus or a turn 3 Project Pegasus, like, you're not always able to use all of that energy that turn to be able to get the maximum value or the maximum output.
True.
So it'll be interesting to see what people do when they do play this card.
Yeah.
But I do think it has the potential to be one of the better potential Arcana. And I say that also because of how much Luke Cage is around compared with the Winds.
I think it's going to be very good as well. However, I will say I actually think the next one has the chance to be the sleeper.
The next one is a 4-cost. It is on reveal, transform your other cards here into copies of the highest powered one, which is really cool. It is 4 costs, but like you, of course, you set this up to either play like at the end of the game or play on a later turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like images of I think it's images of Icon is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this one, some of them feel like they really combo with him. When I say him, I do mean Agamotto, and I think both the previous 2, the first one and the third one do.
Mm-hmm.
They both work with it. However, if we're talking about like, I think the thing I'm going to say is I don't think you play images or what is it? You don't think you play images or Winds on their turns. If you go for a turn 5 just playing Agamotto, then you go turn 6 images into your Winds, you've abandoned a lane, or you've moved them away from a lane that they need to go for, and then you just get a bunch of power in whatever other lane you need to go for. So if we're going to talk about like a specific comp, I think that's a really, really fun combo you can go for. Or what is it? Or if you play the power card, whatever, on turn 3 or turn 4. Yeah, turn 4. Then the defaulting turn, you play Agamotto and then duplicate him. And that's a great turn 5. So I feel like this has the most potential, in my personal opinion, for those Arcana.
I think it's gonna be really interesting to see what people combo with this. I think this is a really cool ability. Like, I agree. Like, you have to stack lanes, of course, to probably get maximum output for this. Like, if you only have 2 cards in lane, you know, only one of them changes to the other card. But I think it's gonna be really interesting to see, you know, what people do build with this. And I think that's one of the main things when it comes to like this card is like, what are people going to be playing with this card, and how are they going to be building, this card? So I'm very interested to see how that works.
Yeah, and I'm saying all this in terms of things I really like. Tuck, I got no idea what the correct answer for him is going to be, like the correct deck, because this is a new deck. Agamotto is a new deck.
Which
and I've got no idea what that is.
You do have a deck. I don't have a deck specifically for Agamotto, but Dance has one. I have a hybrid with him and Isan, which we'll be talking about Isan next. But this is what Dance has put together for Agamotto here.
Yeah, I mean, King Eitri feels like another great way just to pull out another Arcana that you don't have. And then one of the other things, what is it? You had a lot of ramping options for everything else here. And I feel like the Wiccan's just going to give you even more value considering you want to do those extra turns. But especially, I feel like one of the things I felt like I want to focus on most with Agamotto and the Arcana is those cards are banished after you play them. And they're also on reveals. By the way, the banish, new keyword that's going to be coming today. Potentially by the time that I think the patch is going to be introducing it, and potentially even on some other cards. Maybe we talk about that in a sec. But just in general, the fact that the cards get banished, which isn't discarded, it's not destroyed, can't come back currently. May not say it won't come back in the future, but those cards are just gone. Means that with this Arcana, I'm coping the Werewolf by Night. You play it to a full lane, you fill up the lane with the Arcana, and then Werewolf by Night goes over to that lane because he doesn't care. The card's gone now. Similar to how Goblins worked.
Yeah, Werewolf by Night should work with the Arcana like he works with Kang. I think he still would go to the lane if Kang goes off, right?
I think Kang stays on the board technically until he resets the turn fully. I think. Okay,
so no, he wouldn't go. The Goblins is more applicable because they do their whole honor reveal. Okay. I could see it, and I think I'd love to see some werewolf value. And if they're not taking up board space, that's also really good for your werewolf too. So I think that's nice. Yeah,
I don't know what the correct thing is gonna be, honestly, but I'm excited by this in general. I think it's gonna be a pretty fun one to go for. But as you already mentioned, you have Isan. You want to talk about Isan? The other card releasing today.
Yep. So we do have Isan, who is a 6'10". I believe this is his updated text.
No, it's according to their actual dev video. This is not the actual text. So on screen, I'll just tell you all on Snap.fan, it says after each turn, put a card from your deck that didn't start in your hand here. In actuality, I don't believe that's how it's going to be working. It's going to work the exact same. It's just different text. It says end of turn as a new phrasing. Put a created card from your hand here. Created card is literally anything that's made. The only difference is it's not going to work with, I think, Cable.
Yeah, because Cable does not create a card. It steals a card.
Exactly, yeah. So that's the only differences between this. And so it doesn't work with exactly one other card and then one location. Everything else, though, I think it seems really cool. I think that this card seems like a lot of fun. I think we were talking about this before, where we were like, we don't really know. We started talking about this last week. I don't know what's going to be the correct thing for this. We have some fun ideas here. Well, what do you think about this card, though, just in general? I know you already did your buy or bust, but
I'm not super sold on this card. If you guys do want to open spotlights for this card, I would say. If you're missing Wiccan, I think you open spotlights to try and get Wiccan, because Wiccan is worth it. But I would also say, if your collection complete, play the Sanctum out a little bit longer just to get that Series 4, Series 5 cash, or whatever thing it is, whatever it's called, to be able to get Isan that way, opposed to just opening the spotlights for him. I think that would be better. But this card's going to be very interesting. I think this card may age better than it is going to be first week. I think it's a good Erisham enabler. I'm not a huge fan of Erisham, but of course, in order to get value with this, and I say, kind of the same way I was feeling about Red Wing in a sense, you do have to actually have created cards in hand, or this is just a big 10 powered card on the board. But since you are creating cards, that is a targeted pull from your hand, which is different than Red Wing being a random pull. So it's something you can build around and kind of target what you want in Isan's location a little bit better. But I'm not entirely super sold on this card.
So I feel like I think Red Wing is an amazing example. I'm hoping it's going to be better because the differences between the similarities between Red Wing and this card are the fact that neither one can play a card without something else. Like, they both play cards for free from your hand, but neither one does it without a restriction. Isan's restriction is the fact that he only does it with cards that have been created, cards that he did not generate himself. Whereas Red Wing's restriction is that it has to be moved. And I'm hoping that Isan's restriction is easier.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't think either one of us have Airshim list because neither one of us are excited by Airshim in particular.
Nope.
So it's not really what either one of us are looking for. I'm glad that it's going to be something else that could potentially work with it. I know there was this previous version of Isan, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, the card is gone and it's useless, and now we have this garbage ability. I hate data mines. I hate the fact that we have to rely on them in terms of just information about the updates or just like what cards we should be going for in general. But as a c'est la vie, I think this card's going to be hopefully pretty fun. I'm excited for. I really want to use Nick Fury. I wish that I feel like White Queen was going to be good enough for it. I don't think she will be, unfortunately, but.
No, I think Nick Fury is a great shout. And you have Nick Fury actually in your list. I have him in mine as well. But you have Magic also in your version to get even more potential Isan value.
Right. That's the logic here, right? Even if you don't for some reason get Isan, for what it's worth, you can still get Blink. You try to like ramp it out in a bunch of different ways. You got Penny as a ramper. You've got Wave as a ramper. You've got you got Wiccan. You've got a bunch of different options for that ramp turn. And then the question becomes, and it's going to be an interesting card to build with because I think it's going to be a whole 50-50 of like, okay, do I have enough enablers for Wiccan? Do I have enough enablers for Wiccan? Do I have enough things that draw cards? Do I have enough things that make cards? Like, how am I going to get all this value from this? And I'm hoping we can. I'm hoping this will work. We'll wait and see, but I'm excited by this card in general. Yeah, it's gonna. We'll have to wait and see. I just don't know.
Yeah, no, I think we kind of have like a similar headspace when it comes to this. I'm playing the Agamotto version of this, kind of having that as potential just cards Isan could even pull onto the board without having to spend the energy for them. And I have like Valentina, I have Jubilee to ramp it out, Wave to ramp it out, Luna Snow. I think the Blink shout is like, we talked about this before, like we fully finalized our decks too, is being able just to blink out Wave or blink out a Luna Snow to get something from your top end is just incredible value. And then we both also have Quinjet in here for all these different card generators. And, you know, Penny Parker, people aren't playing a lot of Penny Parker unless you're playing a lot of maybe hand buff maybe. But getting the extra energy whenever she merges with another card is really solid, just to have another tool to be able to ramp some of these cards out. Like you could play your Spider into a Blink. Like you could, you know, play Blink potentially on 4 if you don't have the Wave or the Luna Snow, just by merging a card with Penny Parker to be able to potentially get your top end as well. So like there's just a couple, like at least different lines through this list that I think is really cool. Of course, I don't have the extra turns like with Magic or the extra energy with Wiccan, but I have Agamotto, and you know, I'm always going to get that extra energy with
right. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think the other thing I'll say with Penny is that I liked her in this, not only for that ramping, is because Isan's only gonna do it to his location.
Yep.
So if you don't have great stuff at your location, you can play the Spider if you've ramped out other stuff onto Isan and or another card at his location. Isan moves, and you get to play for another location. And I think that's gonna be a lot of real fun. We both have Nick Fury. I'm hoping Nick Fury is playable with this, Tuck. We're hoping. Potentially coping.
Surely
potentially coping.
He's playable. He's the most playable by far, right? He's going to give us the best 6 drops. He's going to always give us 2 Infinauts, never an Agatha, you know, just all the good stuff here. Same with Valentina. Valentina's just going to give us good cards and stuff. But no, I think it's going to be fun. This is probably what I'm going to try and push with, just to have some fun going into it. But that is the first week of the brand new season. And then things start to get dare I say, really crazy.
Yeah, so Starbrand is... Tuck, this is your boy. I shouldn't. This is your boy. I'm gonna wait.
Okay. So Starbrand releases the following week. He is a 3-cost, 10-power card with the ongoing ability. Your opponent has +3 power at each other location. So it's a 3/10 with a downside, which of course it should have a downside if it's going to be a 3/10. I mean, most of these 10-powered cards in this game have a downside, unless you're looking at the 5-cost cards, you know, that Dance loves. So we have that going on. It's a Sauron card. It's a Scar/Surtur enabler. You just start running 0 in your Scar packages again with this here. Mm-hmm. Do you drop Surtur for Starbrand? I don't know. Probably not, but you can get this card consistently to 3/10, and you can't get Surtur consistently to a 3/10. But I digress. I think that'll be an argument people talk about, but I don't necessarily agree with it. But it just screams Sauron, and this is going to be just a big dumb idiots card. I think maybe people put it in some other stuff as well, but I think we kind of know the general home for this card.
Yeah. No, I think this is a very cool card. I'm very interested by it. It's if you argue with the ongoing ability, it's effectively a 3/4.
Yeah.
Right? So with that, it is effectively that. I'm interested if that's going to be fine enough. I'm interested if that's going to be enough to be like the card is completely okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. It's a dumb
I'm excited
card.
by this.
It's not nothing flashy. Nothing flashy. Like the next card, which is gonna be really flashy, but this is just like a plug. Okay, it's a dumb card. I'm playing it. Okay, kind of thing. Whereas Fire Hair Dance,
Fire Hair is in my opinion, the most likely one to get nerfed in this month. I'm saying that straight up. I'm so stoked by this card. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Fire Hair is a 2/3. When one of your cards is destroyed, this uses that card's on reveal. Kind of similar, by the way. You remember forever when we did their own custom cards, giving me vibes of your who was it? It was Darwin, I want to say.
it was Yeah, I think it was Darwin actually. It was either Darwin or it was Cypher.
I think it was Cypher. It wasn't Cypher. It was Darwin then.
Okay, yeah. It was, or it was Cypher's friend. I forget. Because Cypher summoned.
Oh God, yeah. All right, I'll try to remember that. But yeah, so what do you talk about Fire Hair for a second? What do you think about her? Because I think she's gonna be pretty fun.
So like, when I saw this, and Dance and I were talking about this, I was like, this is the way this card reads, right? Like, surely, like I'm reading this correctly, and this can happen multiple times on the same exact turn. And then we watched the dev video, and I immediately texted Dance. I was like, Dance, did you see what happened? And he's like, what do you mean I haven't watched yet? And then he's like, oh my gosh, it actually happened. And so this is what I was talking about. You swap out Joaquin, you put Fire Hair in your mill list, and of course that's very specific, and you get the on reveal to happen on a different lane, which I think that's what's good, is you don't have to play everything onto the same lane to be able to get the stuff to happen. I'm also thinking the old Misery Darkhawk list, you get the value there. Like, there's a bunch of kind of shells you play this Fire Hair into to be able to get the value out of, and I think, like, she may not be the most, let me say, like, broad and you can plug into any sort of deck, but I do think she is going to be one of the best kind of alternate destroy enabler kind of things. And like, and I say that in like the same context of Phoenix Force, because she's the first person to ever have the Phoenix Force. So it kind of grants you a brand new kind of archetype, which I will really hope people build something like that, and it gives you more misery value. And this Spotlight Week also has Cassandra Nova, and it has Nico in it, and that's 2 incredibly good cards to also get. So, like...
Yeah. No, this is also an amazing Spotlight Week. I think that can't be... we talked about that. This was we said this Spotlight Week, like, if you have the keys for it, save for the Fire Hair Week. I'm willing to bet this card's going to get nerfed. I'm going to be wrong here, but if and when this card gets nerfed and it's slightly worse, the ability, it will still be playable, and the card will be busted.
Yeah, should go to like a 2/2 or something.
2/2. It's a 2/2, or they decide it's just too good for a 2-cost ability.
Yeah, and they make it a 3 cost or something.
Yeah, something like that. I
Oh
think
my
either one of
gosh.
those are legitimate.
3 cost, and then you play her in Surfer, and you make a brand new Destroy Surfer shell with like Venom and stuff.
I'm down.
And then you can go Surfer and into Venom, and then she procs the on-reveal abilities of Surfering. Sorry, I'm cooking ahead of her being potentially a 3 cost in the future, but that's just me.
We don't even. That's not even confirmed. I'll just say that. Real quick
No,
if
it's
y'all
not
are wondering.
confirmed.
No, it's not confirmed. But we're just let us yap.
Yeah.
No, I think she's going to be an absolute. This card just feels so good. I know everyone's talking about Mill. I think there's going to be a better place for her than that. I think it's going to be. I feel like the Darkhawk you're talking about there is a much more likely place for her to be really good at. I think everyone's going to go for Mill because it's a deck that runs it. But I know Mill's annoying. I don't think Mill's that good. And I think you're going to want a better deck for her. And I think Darkhawk is a much better place for it because you're getting value with your other cards that you're playing otherwise.
Werewolf Darkhawk bounce again.
Ooh, I'm down. Yes.
Yeah.
You throw Misery in there?
You throw Misery, and you have still all the all of the werewolf enablers and stuff. Like I think, yeah, there's some. I wonder if it uses the on reveal. I doubt it procs werewolf.
No, because Werewolf said when you play a card with on
Yeah.
reveal.
Okay.
So he doesn't get triggered by that one. Valhalla that does. Yeah. So yeah, and it wouldn't trigger Werewolf, but still, card's great.
And with that in mind too, we also have another this is really cool, kind of ability kind of thing. Khonshu is another just really just cool ability card they're adding to the game. I'm very pumped for this too.
Yeah, Khonshu's gonna be. I'm stoked for Khonshu. He's very complicated because each time he can be discarded, I believe, twice.
Yes.
And each time you discard him, he comes back with more power, and then his ability will trigger with more power. And if you want to talk about the actual ability,
Yep. So Khonshu is at base, and I say at base, a 6-cost 5 power card. When discarded, return in its next phase. And that's part 1 of its text. That's if you discard Khonshu. If you do not discard Khonshu, on reveal, resurrect a card you discarded to another location with its power set to 5. And that is at the first token of Khonshu. The next token, he goes from a 6/5 to a 6/7. And then also reads on text, when discarded, return in its final phase. And what's really cool about these token cards is you guys can see it on screen here if you guys are watching on YouTube, that the text does change on the card itself. Khonshu's coloring of the moon does change from a yellowish brown on the first Khonshu to a blue moon on the second 6/7 Khonshu. And reading the text again, when discarded, return in its final phase. It'll return as another token in your hand. But if you do not discard it, on reveal, resurrect a card you discarded to another location and set its power to 7. So another really cool, just targeted revive. And then if you do get Khonshu to his final phase, like Dan said, discarding him twice, he has a full moon on his name on the tag or the character name.
the logo, I think.
The
is what they call
logo,
it, yeah.
yes. Logo, which is going to probably be really cool animated. Full moon, and it says Khonshu is a 6-cost 12 power card now. On reveal, resurrect a card you discarded to another location with its power set to 12. And I do want to preface here, when you do discard Khonshu, it's going to be the same as discarding an Apocalypse or discarding a Scorn, in the sense where the other aspects of Khonshu do not go into your discard pile. So it's not that when Khonshu does revive, he's going to revive one of his older forms, because they are just a newer Khonshu in his hand. It will be a different card that you discarded, getting the set power that Khonshu gives it.
Yeah, and again, by the first version says it returns to your hand,
Yes.
which is the logic there. So yeah, no, I think he's gonna be so much fun. I'm stoked. This is gonna be a really fun card. I cannot state how interesting this card is going to be. The fact that I feel like this is just going to bring into again, similar to how Bullseye brought a new version of discard with the Daken, this is going to bring hopefully a new version of discard with trying to do stuff with like Silver Samurai coming into the play, hopefully.
Silver Samurai, Black Knight, Corvus is also in spotlights to get some, but maybe other potential enablers for just Khonshu himself.
Yeah.
You know, Lady Sif's back finally.
I do actually think that this card has the biggest potential of working with Corvus Glaive, because he's kind of fallen out of the meta, fallen out of love as of late. And so this has, I think, the realest chance to hopefully be one of those cards that are going to give you some pretty good value.
And we do have another discard card coming out as well. To potential, I don't necessarily know. I think this could hit Khonshu in his first form. I think you're going to have more likelihood to hit Khonshu at a 6/5 with this card specifically here, which we're talking about the first Ghost Rider, who is riding a woolly mammoth, by the way, which looks
so cool,
incredible,
so insane.
Which is the brand new high voltage reward, meaning that high voltage will be coming back this next season. I think towards the end of the season again, right, Dance?
Most likely, yeah. That's typically what it is. Yeah, typically what it is.
And it is a 2-cost, 6-power card, another 2/6 that does have a downside because it is 2/6, which is an on reveal discard the lowest power card for your hand, or it should be from your hand.
I think it's supposed to be from your hand. I don't know why it's
And then you remove that card's power from this. So it is a targeted discard, which goes based off of the power, kind of similar to how Silver Samurai is a targeted lowest power in hand, except Silver Samurai hits your card and your opponent's card. This, of course, only hits your card.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool. I think this is another very fun one. I'm annoyed with the fact that it's just a card that can technically still work with Luke Cage. I don't think Luke is going to be played in this one, but I don't like that bit. However, one of the things that I will say specified about this card by Glenn in the Team Answer section is that if you're discarding a Goblin, a Gore, something that has negative power that does not add power to Ghost Rider, it just is 0. That is specified, confirmed by the devs, so we do have that knowledge, which is unfortunate because that would have been a really fun comment, but it does mean still you can bring those cards back. And if we're talking about the previous card, Khonshu, bro, give me a 5/12 Iron Man. And I think even Khonshu, if we go back to him real quick, doesn't he say a different location? Like
different, yeah, it says another location. So I think
you're adding 12 power to one location, and then you're adding another 12 power. So that's like a 24 power card on its own. And imagine you're hitting something else that gets even more. It's insane.
Yeah. And you're working for that 24 power, which I think is reasonable. You're working to discard it each time. And I think this is really interesting. So like when I look at the first Ghost Rider, I also kind of think of Corvus a little bit in Hela. I know it's definitely not the Hela shell right now, but I'm thinking as this as another potential endgame enabler. In the sense where you could use this and then blink it out and get some Hela value, or I don't know. I think this is just going to be a really cool card for Hela. I think you could use this even in some just regular discard to get some value, and I think the Luke Cage shout is very interesting. I don't know necessarily if you're going to play Luke Cage in this, but it wouldn't be the worst thing to get a 2/6 back to being a 2/6.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be the correct place. But I'm hoping it doesn't. But I could easily see a world where you want to do where there's some version of like I think they've tried it for a bit, an Ajax Hela deck, and I think it tried it and it didn't feel amazing. And I'm wondering if the first Ghost Rider, maybe even with Khonshu, is enough for that to be real.
First Ghost Rider with Ajax actually would be really interesting. To be able and then you play first Ghost Rider and then you play regular Ghost Rider, you get your Hazmat back on the board to get the Ajax value. And I think people were playing Ajax back when Hela was also afflicting your cards with negative power when she revived him. I think that's one of the main emphasis, which of course
they tried with the new version, I think, and it just didn't work.
No.
But yeah. There's a lot of there's so many fun cards coming out this season. It's going to be I think this is going to be a really sick season. And especially compared to last season, the cards are just infinitesimally better. I think that means bigger. Or it means a lot smaller. Anyway, it's better. The cards this season are definitely better. But when I have a rating I can give these cards, and I was thinking about it. I'm pretty sure, like, other than Sam from the prior season, I'm pretty sure all of them except for maybe 2 are cards I think would be better and or I'm more excited for than Sam. So basically I'm saying I've got a list of I've got my ranking, but I also am just saying as a preface to it, I think Sam, if we're ranking him, if he's getting ranked as well, I think he's still better than quite a few of these cards.
Yeah, I think overall Sam as his season pass card is better than some of these just spotlight week cards, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can totally agree with that. I do think this season has better cards, like you said, than last season. Like overall, just bangers, and like they kind of aren't necessarily plug and chugs. And I really love this aspect of having to make new decks for cards and kind of like feel out kind of like how they play. Which I mean, some of the decks for last season also weren't necessarily plug and chugs. Like think of like Red Wing, like you have to make new decks and stuff. But it's gonna be very interesting to see if we can continue a streak of good season pass cards and see how they kind of measure up to each other when we do our year in review recap and do our ranking of those season pass cards and look at how they affected the meta. Because we weren't really thinking Sam Wilson was going to affect the meta the way he did. Like we knew he was going to be a pretty good card, but not how just like plug and chug he was, and like how Sanctum Showdown, kind of enabled him to do some extra stuff as well. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these cards also affect high voltage, like especially when it comes to potentially Conchu, or it comes to maybe an Agamotto in high voltage being able to get some of these Arcana out early. But I am very interested to hear your rankings of these cards.
Do you want to go? Do you want to go like take turns with it? I'll give you my number one. You tell me your number one.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, I will just say straight up, number one's Firehair.
Yeah, I think Firehair. I'm so I don't know, Firehair and Conchu. I'm so like on the fence of having which one definitively as my number one, because I love Destroy, I love Phoenix Force, I love Discard, I love Ghost Rider Black Knight kind of stuff.
Tucker, you stop talking about everything you love here. You have to choose. I'm asking you to choose your favorite kid.
Oh God, that's rough.
You only have one. You only have one on the way. It's fine. You don't have to deal with that for a while.
Oh man, I think I go Firehair as well.
It's close, but
yeah,
I feel like Firehair is the most exciting. So I mean, I'm just, not to skip for you, but Conchu's just your number two then. Because you're saying you're fighting between them for your favorite.
Yes, I would go Conchu number two. Or no, I go Firehair. No, yeah, Firehair Conchu. Yeah.
Were you about to say Firehair Agamotto Conchu?
I was thinking Agamotto, but I really need to like see more of it in action before I can put him at a number 2 slot, I feel.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, that's my order, actually. So I've got Firehair, Agamotto, Conchu. I love Conchu. I'm just excited for the new deck building with Agamotto. The fact that when I'm building my deck, I feel like I'm missing and I'm going to be wrong there.
Yeah.
And I'm still so stoked by the idea of Agamotto just giving us a new... we don't really have like a new deck. We haven't had a new style of deck in a while, I think.
Yeah.
And so Agamotto is that, which I'm very stoked with. So so he's my number 2, and then Conchu again. Conchu's great. Nothing against. It's just I'm talking about bangers here. All right. So I'm sorry. My number 3 doesn't mean anything against it. Although number 4 is where I've got Isan. I think Isan is, what is it? Isan, I think I'm the most excited with. I know this might be where you got Star Brand. I'm not trying to spoil it.
I have Star Brand.
Yeah. All right. I think that just goes into our style of deck building more so, because if you've been around for a bit, Tuck loves the the Sauron package with the big dumb idiots, that whole thing. It's something he absolutely adores. So I'm not surprised that Starbrand's there for you. And Isan's Isan works for like kind of what I like, which is just trying to do weird stuff. And so and then Starbrand's following. Is Isan your number 5?
The first Ghost Rider is my number 5.
First Ghost Rider number 5. So Isan is your 6.
Yes, Isan is my last one for this month.
That's fair. Yeah, I feel like they're all really cool. I'm gonna throw a curveball, Tuck.
Okay.
A wrench in your plan that you didn't expect. Rank the Arcana.
Looking back at them, I think I'm gonna have temporal manipulation number 1.
Okay. Oh yeah. Sorry, mine. That is my. I'm not gonna tell you my order actually this time. I'm gonna tell you that's my number 2.
Okay. I have that as my number 1. I think I have wins as my number 2.
Hey, that's my number 1. Okay. Do we swap again for 3 and 4? Question.
Probably I'd go bolts and then image.
All right, so we're very close in our order. That's
But
the
like,
exact,
at the same time, I think we both can agree like this is the way we're ranking them, but by no means are we saying these are bad.
Yeah. We are not definitively saying these cards are bad. I don't think any of these cards this month are truly going to be bad. I honestly, if I'm going to say the opportunity for the worst one, I think it's going to be Isan. But that doesn't mean that I think he's actually going to be bad. I have so much faith and so much excitement for him. But when I'm actually looking at these cards, I think all of them seem bangers, including the Arcana. There's so much fun stuff here, Tuck. Yep. This is gonna be a really, this season of Marvel Snap, Tuck. It's gonna be hopefully a banger, right? We talked about it, how you mentioned earlier when you talked about that year-over-year recap. That was a really good recap, or was it like all the cards from the first bit of the year were really fun, really solid. And I feel like we're going to be having something hopefully similar again here with that. So I'm absolutely excited for that bit. But honestly, I'm not excited for that as I am excited for people to be going over to your Twitch channel.
Wait, Dance, we were
no,
forgetting
you can't
something.
Let me get this plug in first.
We're forgetting something. We weren't going to mention this while we were going over the OTA until afterwards. But
oh, you're right.
We do have some other 2 card changes that are applicable to Agamotto in the sense of Gwenpool and an Alioth, who have been adjusted in the OTA to have a new kind of character text, or not character text, a new line in their text that has been changed. It is pick a random character in your hand 3 times, giving it +2 power each time for Gwenpool. So it only hits character cards, meaning these Arcana maybe are not considered characters.
They are not.
So they're not considered characters. So Gwenpool cannot hit those.
Skills is what is the word that they are using. Yeah.
So that's a brand new kind of style or mechanic in the game is skills. And with that in mind too, what's really interesting is Alioth cannot hit skills. Alioth also got his text changed to remove all the text from all unrevealed enemy characters here, which is just really interesting in this new aspect of skills, or like this play on new style of card gameplay maybe that they're adding to the game, which is something that I think we haven't really talked about or seen anything like this before. It's a brand new thing. It's a new mechanic. But it's very interesting to see how does this affect the game going forward.
Yeah. This is one I will say, by the way. We're talking about skills. I wonder if, legit question, does Sam Wilson's shield, Captain America's shield, get turned into a skill?
Something like start of game things. Maybe not like in the sense of like high evo
I'm saying in terms like,
but
you just don't give it power.
It so Sam Wilson's just a token on the board, or a skill on the board.
Yeah.
That just can move around.
I don't know if that would work. Maybe it doesn't. But I was wondering about that. Like, if you're gonna introduce skills, I don't know if they said we'll be seeing skills on some past cards. I know they said we'd be seeing Banish potentially appear on some past cards, which I don't know if you have anything in mind or what that would be. My opinion, Mordo turns into Banish top card of your opponent's deck.
That would be really cool. I would love to see like that animation on screen. Do you keep him at 2 cost though? And then do you add a new card where it's like bring back a banished card? I mean, I don't know.
I feel like that's a different thing where I feel like they could easily do that in the future, just in terms of like it could easily happen. But yeah, it's That's my take, by the way. If we're gonna say who's banishing,
Okay.
that's my guess.
No, that would be cool. Mordo finally gets value. White Queen.
I don't even know if it still would be
I
that
don't
crazy. Because honestly, like if I'm talking about that, right? Like they lose the card, but also they kind of never had it.
Well, old Yondu used to be kind of crazy.
Yeah, but it still hits top card, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's still fine. It's similar to Cable, except you just don't get the value. I don't know. It'll be fun to see.
That is interesting.
Do you have any ideas for who you think it would be banishing, or a different skill?
Well, I'll let you know what I won't be banishing, and that'll be Not My Dance's Twitch
I
channel.
I let you stop
Who's
me.
going to
I'm
be
not letting you
down
stop me.
in the description below if you guys want some amazing Marvel Snap / variety, Town of Salem Among Us kind of content as well on his Twitch channel. That link will be down in the description below. He's a great yapper here. He's even a better yapper everywhere. I mean, I guess he's an amazing yapper here. You guys can tell me down below if you guys think Dance is amazing. I think he's amazing. But anywho, so definitely check out Dance's Twitch, his also YouTube, where he is posting weekly YouTube content now, which I'm super proud of him for. It's gonna be down in the description below, as well as his Twitter. One day he'll make a TikTok, but he doesn't have TikTok. I mean, I haven't made a Blue Sky, so we're kind of holding each other accountable there. But all that info will be down in the description below.
I think it's the opposite of holding each other accountable.
Yeah, we're not holding each other accountable.
We're both like, listen, we're neither one of us are doing this. It's fine. Nah. And even though he's not making a Blue Sky, but he does, like he said, he has a YouTube. You're already watching it if you're watching it, or you're listening to it if you're listening on audio platforms. Okay, thank you. But going back to the YouTube one, if you're on his YouTube platform, make sure you subscribe down below. Absolutely great guy as well, who is doing just some very great Marvel Snap content, obviously, potentially throwing in some Rivals content more than just the shorts that he already uploads. Obviously, he has his TikTok, as he mentioned, so check out his TikToks again. Some really fun plays he's doing over there. And you're going to be able to see all of that stuff, if you would like to, live on his Twitch channel, TUCCRR. If you're not following it everywhere, make sure you do that. Absolutely great guy who unfortunately beat me to the promo this time.
But we do want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. We do really appreciate it. Let us know down below what cards you guys want the most this next season, and if you guys want to, send us your rankings as well, and we may even review them on the next episode of the Yap. Both Dance and I will be live later today, as well as we try to hit Infinite day 1 potentially, and I'll try not to crash out. But we want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. Until the next time, you guys have a good one. Hope you guys hit Infinite pretty quickly, either this week or the season will be a little bit longer. But yeah, until next time, you guys have a good one, and laters.